Back with Cam Abbott. Cam, first of all, your family is in love with water. A lot of people like to have it in a glass and have a drink, but your grandfather, William, good name first and foremost, got into the boat building business in the 50s. Your dad eventually took over that. What do you recall from those days? I mean, it must have been unbelievable to see boats being built, et cetera, and living, I'm sure, around a lot of water.
Right. Yeah, this is a lot of thoughts that come to mind when you mention that. First off, my grandfather, Chief, he goes by Chief. Yeah, uh-huh. 98 years old, 98 years young, still active, and he's a real inspiration and affected thousands of people in his orbit. And he started building boats in Sarnia, Ontario, out of his shed.
So your grandfather was William, your dad was Bill. Gosh, great names, huh? And every athlete today, I think more than probably anything else now, everybody would like to represent their country in the Olympics. It seems bigger than it ever has been, and your family was very involved. You mentioned sailing in 3 different Olympics, your mother and father in Atlanta in 1996.
And so when they qualified in 96, and my dad steering the boat, my mom in the middle as the only female that's raced in that boat in the Olympics in the open class, as well as the third member of their team from Sarnia. It was a great experience, and we were 13 at the time. Chris and I and my siblings were around the same age, and it was a really cool experience to see firsthand when people dedicate their lives to being, great at something, that it can lead to such great things like representing your country in the Olympics. And
okay, the next 2000, your dad and your uncle.
Yep.
In Sydney, Australia. Now that's a hike. They didn't sail all the way from Sarnia down to Sydney. No. But again, so in 2000, your dad's still.
Yeah, and actually. My mom gave up her spot, if you will, in the previous 2 years in that campaign, which was incredibly difficult for her. But it goes to show that team first, mentality.
Sure.
My uncle took her spot in the boat, and they qualified for the Olympics in Sydney in 2000. I will say that this was only possible, I believe, because my grandfather and my dad and uncle and their whole living in their profession was building boats, and so they built all these boats that they sailed in the Olympics, and they would often sail them in competitions and then sell them. They also understood, how the boats performed and how they could find the most out of these pieces of equipment. That sailing is a very technical sport, and also a ton of strategy and tactics. It's really wonderful, and so Sydney was a cool experience for them. Unfortunately, we didn't get to attend there in 2000, but they had a great competition.
So let's go 8 years down the road in Beijing. Your sister, Katie, we've talked about in a prior about her and your hockey endeavors, but how did she do in Beijing?
Yeah, well, I can't recall exactly how they finished, but at that time, the 3-person keel boat, which my parents had sailed in, was no longer a class in the Olympics, and so it turned into a 3-person women's boat, so that women's athletics would be equal to the men's in terms of the overall numbers, and so the 3 women's keel boat was the Yingling. Also, my dad built, and uncle and grandfather built that boat at their factory, and Katie and her crew. 2 girls from Toronto, I believe, qualified and sailed in Beijing, and Qingdao was where the events were held in China. So that was, my dad actually coached them that year. They put together a 4-year campaign leading up to it, and had a great experience representing Canada there.
Boy, I can't believe they actually built all those boats and then were able to use them to do what they did. That's an amazing story. Yeah. What about you and your brother?
I will say that we did have the benefit of seeing the boats being built in Sarnia at the factory, Abbott Boat Works, which, trust me, it was a working class production facility, but the boats that came out of there finished were a work of art, and they were sold around the world to some of the top competitors.
That's an amazing story. I love that. It's terrific. Yeah. So much there. Boats, Olympics, That's a
Values,
great family story.
yeah.
Yeah, great family story. Anyway, we'll be back with more Wolves hockey.